Pastor Jeff Frazier of Chapel Street Church in Illinois has been placed on leave. The church's executive council cited the use of alcohol on church premises while performing duties and alleged concealment of this wrongdoing as reasons for this action. Now, this comes on the heels of another well-known Christian leader, Max Lucado. He's the pastor at Oak Hills Church in San Antonio, Texas. He recently revealed that he would travel to the other side of town and purchase beer secretly as the pressures of his ministry grew. He says, I was the guy that you would see at the convenience store who buys the big can of beer. He hides it in his sack. He sneaks it out to the car and guzzles it down. He said this took place over 20 years ago, and to his credit, he confessed his hypocrisy of the time, the lies, the breaking of the law, the DUI, risking killing somebody's child on the road. He confessed all of it to the elders of the church, and apparently for what appears to be alcoholism, he received help. Jeff Frazier has denied any wrongdoing, and I don't know all the details, but the scriptures are very clear on the topic of drinking alcohol. Welcome to Morning Tea. Hi, I'm Joanne, Jolee, and I'm so glad you're here today. There's a time for everything. There is a time to drink. There is a time not to drink. Now, number one, the Bible tells us to drink and be merry. You cause the grass to grow for the livestock and plants for man to cultivate, that he may bring forth from the earth wine to gladden the heart of man, oil to make his face shine, and bread to strengthen man's heart. Go eat your bread with joy and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already approved what you do. Use the silver to buy whatever you like, cattle, sheep, wine, or other fermented drink, or anything you wish. Then you and your household shall eat there in the presence of the Lord your God and rejoice. New wine will drip from the mountains and flow from all the hills, and I will bring my people Israel back from exile. They will rebuild the cities and live in them. They will plant vineyards and drink their wine. So, drinking for a merry heart is good as long as you can maintain control of yourself and not get drunk. Drunkenness is forbidden. What do you think about that? Do you have any opinions? Write them in the comments section below. All things are lawful for me, but not all things are helpful, and I will not be dominated by anything. For whatever overcomes a person, to that he is enslaved. And there's a very clear command: do not get drunk on wine, which leads to debauchery. Instead, be filled with the Spirit. So there is a fine line between drinking for a happy countenance and drunkenness, which destroys lives and it brings curses. It does not take much for wine to loosen up our tongues and diminish that clear, sober mind. Wine is a mocker, strong drink is a brawler. Whoever is led astray by it is not wise. So enjoy alcohol wisely. Personally, I have very strict rules around drinking. This is to keep myself from poor judgment and humiliating myself as wine takes that impact, that relaxing effect. And of course, drunkenness leads to addiction. This is a great description of someone who has crossed that line. And there's a warning here of the dangers of becoming enslaved and ruined by drunkenness. Who has woe? Who has sorrow? Who has strife? Who has complaints? Who has needless bruises, bloodshot eyes? Those who linger over wine. It goes down smoothly, but in the end it bites like a snake. It poisons like a viper. Your eyes will see strange sights. Your mind will imagine confusing things. You will be like one sleeping on the high seas, lying on top of the rigging. They hit me, you will say, but I'm not hurt. They beat me, but I don't feel it. When will I wake up so I can find another drink? Matthew Henry comments about this. They are heedless and fearless of danger, and senseless of the rebukes they are under either from God or from man. They are in imminent danger of death, of damnation, lie as much as exposed as if they slept on top of a mast, and yet they're secure and they sleep on. They fear no peril when the terrors of the Lord are laid before them. Nope, they feel no pain when the judgments of God are actually upon them. They cry not when he binds them. Drunks are scarcely to be reckoned animals. They are dead while they live. Addictions of all kinds lead to enslavement and ruin. So clearly, for anyone who is not able to draw and hold that fast line, this is a time not to drink. Alcohol is forbidden in special cases of vows and dedications and leadership. It is not for kings to drink wine, not for rulers to crave beer, lest they drink and forget what has been decreed and deprive all the oppressed of their rights. And the Lord said to Aaron, you and your sons are not to drink wine or other fermented drink whenever you go into the tent of meeting. Again, alcohol impairs sober judgment, so leaders, pastors, elders should consider very carefully where alcohol fits into their life. The priests were not to drink when they were on duty, and the overseers, the pastors, have to be above reproach. They're not given to drunkenness because they are shepherds of a flock. and they can't ever be found inebriated when they are called upon to serve, which often happens at irregular times. Perhaps Jeff Frazier's elders were operating on this principle if he was drinking on church premises and placing the organization itself at risk. The Church Law Center has warnings on alcohol served on church premises at events. It raises significant concerns. The obvious risk of serving alcohol at an event is that someone will drink, try to drive home, and end up in an accident. Depending on the specific facts of the case, someone who was injured in such a crash may have a cause of action against the church to recover compensation for expensive things like medical bills, lost earnings, etc., etc. A bad idea for all kinds of reasons. Now, a few notes about Jesus and wine. Jesus drank. He drank for certain every year at the Passover. One of Jesus' first recorded miracles, of course, was turning water into wine. Not just any wine, it was of excellent quality. And by the way, this took place at the latter part of the wedding festivities when many of the guests were likely already intoxicated to some degree. And this act would have potentially contributed to their drunkenness as they would have gone in for more. If the presence of wine was fundamentally a bad thing, we can be sure that he would not have used his divine powers to contribute to causing drunkenness. But God has called wine good. It's people who misuse this exquisite thing he created. Listen to wine connoisseurs talk about the allure of the aromas, the texture of the body on your palate, and the pairing possibilities that you have with different kinds of foods to bring out flavors. The terroir, I think is how you say it, which refers to all those environmental factors on a specific vineyard or a region. These things that have influence on the characteristics of the wine, the soil, the composition, the climate. It's really a beautiful thing, but unfortunately, alcohol has been getting a very bad report lately. Some influential people like Jordan Peterson.
Alcohol is a really bad drug, you know. 50% of murders take place in an alcohol-fueled environment. Either the victim or the perpetrator or both is drunk. It's almost the sole cause of domestic abuse. It's almost the sole cause of so-called date rape. If you dig into criminal behavior deeply enough, well, hell, you don't have to dig much at all before you find alcohol. It's also the only drug we know that actually makes people more aggressive. So yeah, alcohol is bad news, and it can turn perfectly good people into quite the impulsive and dim-witted monsters.
You know, and the problem I have with what he said is that he's putting all the blame on the alcohol, the substance, rather than on the person who has crossed that line from the merry heart to the drunkenness. And I think it's very similar to saying that guns kill people without any regard to the mental state of the person who has misused what is a good thing. It's a powerful tool for hunting, for self-defense. Now, Paul tells Timothy to take a little wine for his medical problems. Stop drinking only water and use a little wine because of your stomach and your frequent illnesses. The AGA in there, is red wine consumption good for intestinal microbiome, concludes that even rare consumption of red wine is sufficient to increase a diversity of the intestinal microbiome. In the National Library of Medicine, there's an article entitled Wine, Health and Food. The use of wine as a medicine or as a carrier solution for drugs has a long history, going back at least to the ancient Egyptians and Greeks and Roman societies, when wine was used extensively for medicinal purposes. This practice continued unabated until the beginning of the 20th century. The extensive abuse of distilled alcoholic beverages, combined with religious and political conservatism, created a backlash against beverages containing alcohol. And alcohol was viewed as an agent of corruption to be annihilated. The social climate is changing, and the legitimate use of wine in medicine is again being viewed and investigated seriously. And most recently, in a 2-year trial coming out of Israel, they studied moderate wine drinking and found, among other amazing things, increasing good HDL cholesterol, reducing inflammation. Another key finding in the Israeli study into the benefits of red wine relates to reported lifestyle improvements, including better sleep quality. It's important to note that the alcohol in one small glass of wine would have a relaxing effect on the mind and body, but it would not promote the kind of drowsiness and sleep interruptions that can come from excessive drinking. 1 glass of red wine at night helps promote a restful night of sleep. And a rule for Christians: only drink in good conscience. That is above all. Everything we do is to be done in faith and in love. So if drinking in the presence of a weak brother, someone who has a problem with alcohol or anything, if this creates a stumbling block, this is a time not to drink. Be careful that the exercise of your rights does not become a stumbling block to the weak. For if someone with a weak conscience sees you with all your knowledge eating in an idol's temple, won't that person be emboldened to eat what is sacrificed to idols? So this weak brother or sister for whom Christ died is destroyed by your knowledge. When you sin against them in this way and wound their weak conscience, you sin against Christ. Therefore, if what I eat causes my brother or sister to fall into sin, I will never eat meat again so that I will not cause them to fall. So eating or drinking that would cause a weaker brother to fall into sin, this is a time not to drink. Thank you for being here. Don't go without subscribing. Remember to look for the blessings. They're all around you.